The macabre dance in the forgotten barn dust danced in the single ray of sunlight that dared to penetrate the barn's darkness. Mark, a tourist with more curiosity than common sense, had ignored the locals' warnings about the hangman's barn. According to legend, a desperate farmer had taken his own life there decades ago, and his tormented shadow still sought company. Mark, of course, didn't believe in old wives' tales. Until now. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the creaking of rotten wood under his boots. The air smelled of damp earth and despair. In the center of the barn, hanging from a decaying beam, was the rope. Not a new rope, but a thick hawser, worn by time and, Mark would swear, stained with a dark brown color that refused to be just rust. Suddenly, the rope moved. Not by the wind, because there were no open windows. It swung slowly, describing a macabre arc, as if someone invisible were playing with it. Mark felt a chill that froze his blood. Logic told him to run, but a strange force kept him glued to the spot. The swaying became more erratic, more violent. The rope now spun on itself, writhing like a snake in agony. And then, he saw it. Or, rather, he sensed it. A shadow. Not just any shadow, but a dense blot of darkness that formed just below the rope. A shadow with the unmistakable shape of a hanging body. Mark tried to scream, but his voice was stuck in his throat. The shadow grew larger, more defined. He could distinguish the silhouette of the tilted head, the drooping arms, the legs dangling in the void. And, most terrifying of all, the shape of the noose tightening around an invisible neck. A raspy whisper filled the air, a guttural sound that seemed to come from the depths of the earth. It's time to die. Mark slumped backward, tripping over a pile of rotten hay. He tried to crawl towards the door, but the shadow moved faster. It slid across the floor, approaching him with an unnatural speed. Fear gripped him, a primal fear that reduced him to a cornered animal. He closed his eyes, awaiting the inevitable. But, instead of the expected pain, he felt an icy coldness enveloping him like a shroud. He opened his eyes. The shadow was right above him, floating in the air. He could feel its dark presence, its hungry desire to take him with it. And then, he saw its face. Or, rather, what was left of it. A swollen, bruised face, with bloodshot eyes and a tongue hanging grotesquely. The face of the hanged man. The distorted mouth opened in a horrifying grimace. You are next. Suddenly, the rope tightened with a violent jerk. Mark felt unbearable pressure on his neck. He tried to breathe, but his lungs refused to obey. His hands clung desperately to his throat, trying to relieve the pressure, but it was useless. The shadow of the hanged man was strangling him. His vision began to blur. He saw the rope spinning before his eyes, the shadow dancing around him, the hanged man's face mocking him. He felt his consciousness fading, his life slipping away like sand between his fingers. And then, darkness. Days later, two young people from the village, defying the legend, entered the barn. They found Mark's body lying on the floor, with an expression of terror etched on his face. There were no signs of violence, but his neck was inexplicably marked with a deep, red groove. The rope was still hanging from the beam, swaying gently in the silence of the barn. And, if one looked closely, one could swear that the shadow beneath the rope was a little denser than before.